Mr. Ong Teng Koon.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, it is timely that we discuss the issue of waste management and resource sustainability today. PM highlighted the importance of climate change during the National Day rally. In fact, there is enough evidence to suggest that the threat is bigger and sooner than 50 to 100 years away. Climate science is imperfect in its predictions, but all their errors have been to consistently underestimate the negative impact. If anything, we should be moving even faster to prepare for a warmer and more variable climate. Climate change is a complex issue with many facets. For Singapore, we may think that as a small nation, what we do won't really have an impact on the global stage. But that is not to say that we can afford to ignore the consequences of our own actions. Climate change and rising seas are existential threats to Singapore. We need to do the right thing so that we can have the moral authority to voice out in international fora for bigger nations to also do their part to fight climate change. The first issue I wish to touch on is e-waste. As Minister Masagos rightly pointed out, and I quote, "E-waste is very toxic. People underestimate the toxicity of e-waste that we dispose of. And for the longest time, we weren't processing it." According to a UN report, only 20% of e-waste is recycled. 80% of e-waste is dumped in landfills. But even for the 20% that is supposedly recycled, they are not actually recycled, but shipped overseas to be treated instead. This is a hypocrisy that many governments will not admit to because they are busy winning the green voters. But this comes at an enormous environmental cost to the importing countries and to their populations. Prior to 2018, most of the world's e-waste ended up in China. However, China's national salt policy kicked in early 2018. And this policy bans various types of plastics, paper, and solid waste from being exported to China. It sends shockwaves through the global recycling market. Waste started piling up in exporting countries, even in parking lots. The changes resulted in waste being diverted to Southeast Asian countries whose ports and facilities were ill-prepared to receive them in such high volume. This created massive challenges for the environment. As a result, Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia began to enact their own restrictions. So national salt has several important implications for Singapore. To the extent that we are unable to recycle our own waste and rely on exports, this creates a bottleneck in the system. Can the Minister assure us that Singapore has the necessary facilities to treat e-waste and will not be exporting our problems to the rest of the world? A second risk is pollution incidents resulting from the increased volume of waste being treated, particularly in Malaysia. Can the Minister also assure us that a pollution incident in Johor will not easily threaten our water supply? My next point is on packaging. Reducing packaging waste should be a win-win for all. As a consumer, I am often amazed by the almost comical amount of packaging that can surround one small device. One computer mouse or one thumb drive can be surrounded by packaging 4 to 5 times its size. This has consequences. We see increasing reports of fish or whales that are dying because their stomachs are full of plastic. According to the World Economic Forum, there will be more plastic than fish in our seas by the year 2050. Reducing waste would help producers save money while also saving the earth. Everybody wins. So while it is great that there's a requirement for producers of waste to submit plans to reduce, recycle, or reuse the waste that they generate, I hope the Minister can go further by prescribing a hard limit on the amount of waste to be reduced. We don't seem to mandate reductions in the amount of packaging waste per dollar of product. Should we be doing more to move the needle and aggressively drive down the amount of packaging waste produced? For example, when the US introduced fuel efficiency targets for US car makers, they pushed for an aggressive improvement. They wanted to go from around 30 miles per gallon in 2011 to 54.5 miles per gallon by 2025. Will the Minister consider mandatory waste reduction guidelines? My last point is on food waste. It is another area that is causing great concern. According to the UN Food and Agricultural Organization, around 30% of the world's food production is lost or wasted annually. Apart from the human and economic costs, this has massive environmental impacts as well. In this bill, the focus is on building managers to provide separate food waste disposal to treat food waste or send it to a licensed waste disposal facility? Would it be cheaper and more effective for the government to provide this service in bulk through a regulated service provider and charge for this service? If this is instead done piecemeal, privately, is there a risk of higher costs? Even worse, will we be creating a bigger carbon footprint if transport is not efficient? Overall, I laud this as a good first step, as it makes it easier to extract usable bioresources from our waste, which can then be used to produce biogas or electricity. But the same question applies here. Can we not do more to reduce waste? In conclusion, as the father of 2 young children who could live well into to see the turn of the next century, I feel that we have to ask ourselves, if the measures in this bill are necessary, but ultimately not sufficient, are we merely arranging deck chairs on the Titanic while accelerating towards an iceberg? Yes, as a small country, our total waste is relatively small compared to the global total. We need to ask if we can do more to help the rest of the world reduce or deal with waste. Technology and innovation are 2 assets that Singapore can leverage on. Can we encourage our companies to develop technologies to help to manage waste? This can range from better biodegradable materials to solutions that help manage waste at source. For example, distributed gasification system to treat waste locally at each HDB precinct. As the waste problem grows globally, mastering technology in this domain can create a competitive advantage for Singapore businesses looking to expand globally. I remember past stories of companies being lauded for launching sustainable businesses, such as local food waste recycler IUT Global. However, many faded and shut down after a few years. Can we nurture national champions with deep expertise in managing waste in a commercially viable manner? As a nation, this is also an opportunity for us to take the lead on the international stage. While climate change might be a divisive issue in some countries, or still seem distant to some people, waste is a more direct and tangible issue that should make it easier to rally people to take action. Bold targets lead to bold actions. I hope the Minister can set us a target. I would like to humbly suggest that Singapore should aim to move one step beyond zero waste, to become a net negative waste nation. Through a combination of diplomacy, commerce, and technology, we can help address an existential crisis for Singapore and for the world. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I support the bill. Thank you.